A boy stands in a California courtroom. He is 14 years old, skinny, bruised, deaf in one ear from an infection nobody bothered to treat. His stepfather beat him so badly he was thrown down a flight of stairs. His mother, an alcoholic who abandoned him at 3, has just signed a court order declaring him one word, incorrigible. The judge stamps the paperwork. Student number 3188, destination. A reform school in Chino Hills for boys the system has given up on. That boy would become the highest paid actor on the planet. What if I told you that same kid, the one declared beyond saving at 14, would one day dive into Arctic waters and pull 5 Marines from a sinking tank with no thought for his own life? What if I told you he was supposed to be at Sharon Tate's house the night the Manson family showed up with knives, and the only reason he survived is because he changed his plans for a date with a pretty girl? What if I told you that on his deathbed, this man, Hollywood's most notorious rebel, was found with Billy Graham's personal Bible pressed against his chest? His name was Terrence Stephen McQueen. The world called him the King of Cool. And these are 10 moments that prove he earned every letter of that title. Number 10, the reform school that created a legend. March 24th, 1930, Beech Grove, Indiana. A baby is born to a 19-year-old mother named Julia Ann Crawford and a barnstorming stunt pilot named William Terrence McQueen. The father disappears 6 months later, just gone. Steve McQueen never meets him, never gets a letter, never gets a phone call, nothing. Julia can't cope. She sends 3-year-old Steve to live with her uncle, Claude Thompson, on a hog farm in Slater, Missouri, a town of about 3,000 people in the middle of nowhere. And here's what breaks your heart. This hog farm becomes the only stable home Steve McQueen will ever know as a child. Uncle Claude gives him a red tricycle for his 4th birthday. McQueen later said that little tricycle is what started his obsession with speed. Then Julia comes back. She drags Steve to Los Angeles to live with her new husband, a man named Harold Berry. And Berry is a monster. He beats this kid savagely. McQueen remembered it for the rest of his life. He beat me for the sheer sadistic pleasure it gave him. By age 9, Steve is living on the streets, running with a gang, stealing. And here's a detail most people never knew. Steve had been functionally deaf in his left ear since age 6, untreated otitis media. In the 1930s, without antibiotics, and without anyone who cared enough to take him to a doctor, the damage became permanent. At 14, the Berry beats him so badly, he throws him down a flight of stairs. Steve looks up from the bottom and says, "You lay your stinking hands on me again, and I swear I'll kill you." That's when they signed the incorrigible order. Student number 3188 arrives at the California Junior Boys Republic. But here's what makes this place different. Boys Republic didn't operate on punishment. It operated on self-governance. The boys set their own rules, elected their own council, and slowly, something shifted. Steve was elected to the Boys' Council. He started showing up. A plaque at that school reads, "Steve McQueen came here as a troubled boy, but left here a man." And what did McQueen do after he became the biggest star in the world? He went back, year after year, unannounced. He'd play pool with the kids and tell them his story. He demanded bulk jeans and razors from every studio he worked with. Not for himself. He shipped them quietly to Boys Republic. The school only confirmed the pattern after his death. The boy nobody wanted spent his entire life convincing other unwanted boys they were worth something. Without cameras, without credit, that plaque still hangs at Boys Republic today. But what happened before he got to that school, the drifting years between Boys Republic and the Marines, that's a story most people have never heard. Number 9, Arctic waters and the President's Yacht. After leaving Boys Republic, 16-year-old Steve McQueen drifts through a life that sounds like a novel. He signs on as a merchant sailor aboard a tanker bound for the Dominican Republic, where he jumps ship and works as a towel boy at a brothel. He sells pens at a traveling carnival in Texas, works as a lumberjack in Canada, roughnecks on an oil rig, gets arrested for vagrancy in the Deep South, and serves 30 days on a chain gang. Then, in April 1947, the 17-year-old walks into a Marine Corps recruiting office with his mother's signature on the consent form, ships out to Parris Island for boot camp, Now you need to understand what kind of Marine Steve McQueen was. He was terrible at following orders. By his own count, he was busted back down to private about 7 times. His official military personnel file documents 2 absent over leave charges in 1949 alone. He overstayed a weekend pass by 2 weeks to stay with a girlfriend, resisted arrest by shore patrol, and got himself sentenced to 41 days in the brig. And then comes the moment that changes everything. Picture this: amphibious training exercises in the Labrador Sea, some of the coldest, most dangerous water on Earth. McQueen's transport ship strikes a sandbar. Tanks start sliding off the deck. Crews are trapped inside. Men are going into freezing water. Without hesitation, without orders, without a life vest, Steve McQueen dives in and pulls 5 Marines from a sinking tank before it breaks through the ice and disappears. 5 men alive. Because a kid from a hog farm in Missouri didn't stop to calculate the odds. That act transformed his standing overnight. He was assigned to the Honor Guard, protecting the USS Williamsburg, President Truman's personal yacht. The kid who couldn't stop getting thrown in the brig was now trusted with guarding the President of the United States. He was honorably discharged in 1950. And here's the detail that haunted him for life. According to his first wife, his entire unit was wiped out in Korea just months after he left. His military records are still on file at the National Archives in St. Louis. But what he did next, with nothing but a GI Bill and a hunch that he could act, is where the real story begins. Number 8. One of 5 from 2000, New York City, early 1950s. A 20-year-old Marine veteran is sleeping in Coldwater Flats in Greenwich Village, loading trucks to survive. He's using his GI Bill to study acting at the neighborhood playhouse with Sanford Meisner, one of the greatest acting teachers who ever lived. Meisner sees something immediately. He says he was an original, both tough and childlike, as if he'd been through everything, but he had preserved a basic innocence. McQueen applies to the most exclusive acting program in the country, Lee Strasberg's Actors Studio. 2,000 people apply. They take 5. McQueen is one of them. His first starring film role comes in 1958, a low-budget science fiction picture called The Blob. And here's where he makes the worst financial decision of his career. He's offered a choice: $3,000 up front, or 10% of the profits. He takes the cash. The Blob grosses $4 million. That 10% would have changed his life. Instead, he got $3 grand to play a teenager at 28. But that film puts him on a screen. A TV producer catches the footage and casts him as bounty hunter Josh Randall in Wanted, Dead or Alive. 94 episodes on CBS, starting at $750 per episode. He learns the quick draw from Sammy Davis Jr. And he becomes the first television star to successfully cross over into major film stardom. That had never been done. From $3,000 for The Blob in 1958 to $12 million for The Towering Inferno in 1974. That's roughly $76 million in today's money for a single film. But it wasn't the money that made him a star. It was what he did with 7 lines of dialogue in a little western called The Magnificent Seven. Number 7. 7 lines that stole an entire movie. Mille Centa. The set of The Magnificent Seven. Director John Sturges has cast Yul Brynner in the lead, one of the biggest, most imposing stars in the world. Bald head, deep voice, commands every room. Steve McQueen gets a supporting role. 7 lines of dialogue. That's it. Now watch what he does. While Brynner is delivering his big speeches, McQueen is in the background, shaking shotgun cartridges next to his ear, flipping coins, adjusting his hat, doing tiny, while almost invisible things that pull the camera toward him like a magnet. At one point, Brynner is standing on a small dirt mound to appear taller, and McQueen casually kicks it away between takes. Brynner is furious, tells the press through gritted teeth, "I never feud with actors. I feud with studios," which was his diplomatic way of saying he wanted McQueen off the picture. But Sturges keeps the cameras rolling, and when audiences see the film, they don't walk out talking about Brynner's speeches. They walk out talking about the quiet guy with the sawed-off shotgun who barely said a word but owned every frame. That film launches McQueen to international stardom. And here's the ending that ties it together. 20 years later, from his deathbed, McQueen picks up the phone and calls Yul Brynner. He thanks him for not having him kicked off the set. Brynner's response, "I am the king, and you are the rebel prince. Every bit as royal, as and dangerous to cross." 7 lines. That's all it took, and the performance is still there, on film, for anyone to watch today. But the stunt that cemented his action legend, that comes next. Number 6. The truth about the motorcycle jump. 1963, The Great Escape. You know the scene. A prisoner on a stolen motorcycle, flying through the German countryside, barbed wire ahead. And then that incredible jump over the fence. Steve McQueen didn't do it. Before you're disappointed, the real story is better. The jump was performed by Bud Eakins, McQueen's friend, who owned a Triumph dealership in Sherman Oaks. Eakins was paid $1,000 to launch a Triumph TR6 over a 12-foot-high fence, descending 65 feet at 60 miles per hour. Single take. But here's what most people don't know. Second Unit Director Robert Ralliea confirmed that McQueen performed the jump off camera, just to prove to himself he could do it. Insurance wouldn't let him near it during filming, but McQueen simply had to know. What he did do on camera was ride the entire chase sequence. And here's the wildest detail. He played both the escaping prisoner and one of the pursuing German soldiers, because no available stunt rider could match his motorcycle skill. In certain shots, Steve McQueen is literally chasing himself. And when Johnny Carson congratulated him for the jump on The Tonight Show, McQueen corrected him on national television. "It wasn't me, that was Bud Eakins." In an era when every actor wanted credit for their own stunts, McQueen gave it to his friend on camera. The Great Escape grossed $11.7 million against a $4 million budget. But the chase scene that really changed cinema wasn't on a motorcycle. It was in a Highland Green Mustang on the streets of San Francisco. Number 5. 11 minutes that changed how car chases were made. October 1968. On a Highland Green 1968 Ford Mustang GT tears up a San Francisco hill, lands hard, and keeps accelerating. Behind it, a black Dodge Charger with a 440 engine producing 375 horsepower. No music, no dialogue, just engines and squealing tires for nearly 11 straight minutes. This is Bullitt. And before this film, car chases in movies were filmed at 30 miles an hour, with the camera sped up in editing. McQueen and director Peter Yates threw that rulebook in the trash. They shot real cars at real speeds, up to 110 miles per hour, on real city streets, with real San Francisco traffic dodging out of the way. McQueen drove the interior and close-up shots himself. Eakins handled the most dangerous sequences, and there's a tale that film buffs have shared for decades. When McQueen is driving, the rearview mirror angles down to catch his face. When Eakins is behind the wheel, the mirror tilts up. Watch for it next time. The surviving Hero Mustang, the one McQueen actually drove, was hidden by a family for decades. They turned down every offer to buy it, including one from McQueen himself. In 2020, it sold at auction for $3.4 million. Bullitt grossed $42.3 million worldwide and won the Academy Award for Best Editing. Every car chase you've watched since 1968, every single one, exists because of what McQueen and Yates did on those San Francisco hills. But McQueen wasn't just playing a driver on screen. Behind the cameras, he was doing it for real, and the race that proved it nearly killed him. Number 4, broken foot, Sandpaper shoe, second place by 22 seconds. Most people knew Steve McQueen as an actor who liked cars. The professionals who raced against him knew something different. He bought his first motorcycle, a 1946 Indian Chief, while studying acting in New York, racing at weekends for $100 a pop. He raced under a fake name, Harvey Mushman, to hide from the studios, who would have pulled his insurance in a heartbeat. March 21st, 1970, the Sebring 12 Hours, one of the most grueling endurance races in the world. McQueen is co-driving a Porsche 908 Spyder with Peter Revson, the Revlon Fortune heir, who would later win 2 Formula One Grand Prix. They're racing a 3-liter car against 5 lighter monsters. On paper, they have no business being there. But here's the complication. The 2 weeks earlier, McQueen broke his left foot in 6 places at a motocross race. He shows up at Sebring on crutches, in a cast. His team shortens the left pedal. They glue sandpaper to the bottom of his shoe so he can work the clutch through the cast. And Steve McQueen gets in that car and races for 12 hours. They finish second overall. First in class, they lose to the Ferrari of Andretti, Giunti, and Vaccarella by just 22.8 seconds after 12 hours. One of the closest finishes in Sebring history. Ferry Porsche, the son of Ferdinand Porsche, personally wrote McQueen a congratulatory letter. Richard Atwood, who won Le Mans that same year, said it plainly, he wanted to be one of us, and he was one of us. At his death, McQueen owned approximately 210 motorcycles, 55 cars, and 5 airplanes. His most treasured possession, a 1956 Jaguar XKSS, bought for $5,000 in 1958, is now worth over $30 million and sits in the Peterson Automotive Museum. The official Sebring results, documenting a man who raced 12 hours on a broken foot and lost by 22 seconds, are on record with the Automobile Racing Club of Florida. But the next moment on this list has nothing to do with speed. It has to do with the one night Steve McQueen was supposed to die. Number 3, the night a date saved his life. August 7th, 1969, Los Angeles. Steve McQueen is sitting in a barber's chair while his close friend, Jay Sebring, gives him a trim. Afterward, they go for Mexican food at El Coyote restaurant on Beverly Boulevard. During dinner, Sebring mentions he's heading to Sharon Tate's rented house the following evening, 10,050 Cielo Drive, Benedict Canyon. Tate is 8.5 months pregnant. Her husband, Roman Polanski, is in Europe. Just a quiet evening with friends. McQueen says yes, he'll be there. August 8th. McQueen gets a call from a young woman he's been seeing. She suggests they spend the evening alone. He changes his plans. Just past midnight on August 9th, 4 members of Charles Manson's family enter 10,050 Cielo Drive. They murder everyone inside. Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, stabbed 7 times and shot. Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Stephen Parent, 5 people. McQueen's first wife, Neela Adams, confirmed it directly. He ran into a chickie and decided to go off with her instead. Going off with that girl saved his life. In Bugliosi's Helter Skelter, Susan Atkins reportedly named McQueen on a celebrity target list, with his death planned to look like a suicide. Tex Watson later said Atkins's claim was untrue. The list remains disputed. What is not disputed is McQueen's reaction. He delivered a eulogy at Sebring's funeral, despite his hatred of funerals. He had someone remove drugs from Sebring's house to protect his friend's reputation. And from that night forward, Steve McQueen carried a loaded Magnum everywhere he went. He made Nyla carry a gun. He wired every home he owned with security. Mark Elliott wrote, "He could not shake the dark feeling of having come so close to death." And the man who couldn't shake that darkness, he'd soon go head-to-head with the only other actor in Hollywood who was his equal. Number 2, diagonal billing and counting every single line. 1974. 2 studios, Warner Brothers, and 20th Century Fox, are co-producing the biggest disaster film ever made, The Towering Inferno, and they want the 2 biggest male stars on Earth, Steve McQueen, Paul Newman. One problem: both demand top billing. Now picture 2 enormous egos sitting in separate rooms while their agents try to solve an impossible puzzle. In 1974, top billing determines your next contract, your next salary, your entire place in the hierarchy. Neither man can afford to appear second. The solution, invented for this film, is something called diagonal billing. McQueen's name appears first, reading left to right. Newman's name sits slightly higher, reading top to bottom. Each man looks at the poster and sees himself on top. It's brilliant, and it becomes the standard Hollywood practice for every dual-star billing dispute that follows. But McQueen isn't done. He gets a copy of the script and counts every line. Newman has more. McQueen demands 12 additional lines to match exactly, and insists his character delivers the film's final word. Newman calls McQueen chicken shit, tells people, "Every day here is like going to the dentist." But between takes, they got along fine. It was a professional war between two alpha males who both knew whoever blinked first would lose the narrative for the next decade. Both earned approximately $12 million. The film grossed $203 million worldwide, highest grossing picture of 1974. And McQueen turned down roles that built other legends. Dirty Harry went to Eastwood. He said no to The French Connection, Apocalypse Now, Close Encounters, Cuckoo's Nest, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. You can still see the diagonal billing on the original theatrical poster. McQueen left, Newman High, both on top. Neither man blinked, but what comes next is the moment that makes all of this. The rivalry, the fame, the money feel very, very small. Number 1, Billy Graham's Bible. The persistent cough starts in early 1978. By December 22nd, 1979, a biopsy confirms the diagnosis, pleural mesothelioma. By February 1980, the cancer has spread to his stomach, liver, neck, abdomen, kidney, and pelvis. Steve McQueen is 49 years old. The source, almost certainly, the United States Marine Corps. As punishment detail, the young Private McQueen was ordered to strip asbestos lagging from pipes aboard a troop ship. Working in air he described as thick with asbestos. When his third wife, Barbara, asked what caused his cancer, McQueen gave a one-word answer. Just one word. Asbestos. American doctors say there's nothing they can do. In July 1980, McQueen flies to a clinic in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, run by a man named William Kelly, a former orthodontist whose dental license had been revoked in 1976. Coffee enemas, la cattle cell injections, lay trial from apricot pits, 50 vitamins a day, $40,000 a month. The American Cancer Society had listed these methods as unproven since 1971. But here's the part that changes everything you think you know about Steve McQueen. 6 months before his diagnosis, June 1979, he had quietly become a Christian. His flight instructor, Sammy Mason, was a born-again believer in Santa Paula, California, where McQueen had moved to fly biplanes. And McQueen starts attending Mason's church, Ventura Missionary, sitting in the back row every Sunday with Barbara. No press, no publicity. The king of cool, sitting quietly in a pew. After 3 months, he pulls the pastor aside, Leonard DeWitt, and grills him for 2 hours. Can the Bible be trusted? Can all his sins be forgiven? Every single one? Sammy Mason's assessment. I doubt I have ever seen a man flourish with more spiritual reality in such a short time. November 3rd, 1980. 4 days before the end. The Reverend Billy Graham drives to Steve McQueen's ranch in Santa Paula. They spend hours together, praying, reading scripture. Graham gives McQueen his personal Bible and inscribes it, "To my friend, Steve McQueen. May God bless you and keep you always." Philippians 1:6. Graham later recalled, under that oxygen, he would talk. His eyes were just as bright, but he looked emaciated and old. November 5th. McQueen checks into a clinic in Ciudad Juarez under the name Samuel Shepard. November 6th. Dr. Cesar Santos Vargas removes a 5-pound tumor in 3 hours of surgery. The doctor says afterward he had cancer all the way to his diaphragm. Cancer from the right lung was pushing into the left. Steve McQueen dies at 3:45 a.m. on November 7th, 1980. Cardiac arrest in his sleep. He is 50 years old. His son, Chad, finds him the next morning. Billy Graham's Bible is resting on his chest. His ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean. There is no grave. McQueen had once said, "My mother died when she was 50. My father died when he was 50. And I'm going to die when I'm 50. He was right. So let me take you back to where we started. A 14-year-old boy in a California courtroom, skinny, bruised, deaf in one ear, declared incorrigible. That boy pulled 5 men from Arctic water, stole a movie with 7 lines, drove a Mustang at 110 through San Francisco, and changed cinema forever. Raced 12 hours on a broken foot and lost by 22 seconds, survived a massacre by accident, counted every line against Paul Newman, and refused to blink. And at the end, the toughest man in Hollywood, the rebel, the street kid, the king of cool, put his faith in a preacher's Bible and slipped away in the dark. Racing is life. Anything before or after is just waiting. He stopped waiting on November 7th, 1980 at 3:45 in the morning in a clinic in Juarez, with Billy Graham's Bible on his chest and the Pacific Ocean waiting to receive him. If this video taught you something about the King of Cool you didn't know before, drop a comment. Which moment surprised you the most? And if you haven't already, subscribe. We've got more stories like this coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss them.